My name is Chassie, and it's the first of the year, 2012, and my aunt,
Carrie,
and I are wanting to really dive into some Bible study this year. I personally want to get into the Word more and understand it more, so I want to do some Bible study. We are starting off with 1 John, and I am excited about it.
Yeah, me too. It's one of my favorite books, so I'm really excited for this opportunity and privilege.
Yeah, so today we just kind of want to give a little brief overview of 1 John. So the author of this book is John, and it takes place in Ephesus. John is from Ephesus, and so it's most likely that it takes place in that setting. He's speaking to believers. John is the epistle of God. He's known as the Beloved. Yeah. John the Beloved, son of Zebedee. The date is 85 to 90-ish AD. And
yeah, because you just have to think, like, it's not really talking about a lot of persecution. It's talking about false teachings, and about 90 AD was when was it 80? Shoot. Yeah, 80 is when the persecution was happening, and that's when he was taken to the island of Patmos and things like that. So since it doesn't really talk about it, we know it's a little bit before.
He is older.
He's older, yeah, and he outlived all the other disciples, so by this time, we just know that
he's the only one alive right now.
Yeah, right.
So he actually knew Jesus and saw firsthand. So he's speaking to the next generation of believers, and he's really trying to equip them, because there's some interesting stuff going on in Ephesus right now, with some false teachings and
there's a lot of syncretism, which is basically like a mix of religions all combined together, and it's really confusing because these people have gone through the teachings of John. Some of them may or may not have been able to walk with Jesus just in Ephesus and stuff, and it's like all of a sudden these guys are coming in and saying, like, hey, Jesus isn't as powerful as he really is. There's no real thing about salvation.
Right, you can kind of make up your own way of what you think's best to use. That's more Gnosticism.
Kind of. Well, yeah, the Gnostics, they just basically believe that there's some secret or special knowledge that only they're knowing, and that's what's going to get them salvation. So they're trying to, like, take the truth out of the actual gospel and what Jesus did and the power of what he did on the cross. Like, they don't even believe that. So
yes, and so he's really trying to equip these believers into having fellowship, true fellowship with each other, as well as knowing the truth of salvation and that Jesus is the power to save us.
He's the eternal life power. So basically with the Gnostics, if you don't have their knowledge, you're not going to get saved, but John knows better. It's like Jesus is the one. Jesus is the one who saves. And a lot of these people in Ephesus, it's like they don't have the true identity of Jesus in their hearts. So they're able to have these false teachers come in and kind of misconstrue things about the Bible, even their character. When you're around people that aren't really living godly, it's easy to kind of conform to what they're doing. So these people were actually living pretty selfishly, and they weren't loving one another. And John, being called the Beloved, I mean, he really actually loved these people, and he's like, hey, let's get back to the truth. Let's get back to the one true God.
Let's get back to the Bible. Let's get back to God and the foundation of who he is.
Yeah, and not just focused on ourselves and something else that gives, more life than what Jesus gives.
Right. Eternal. So would you say this is like a relevant Bible, relevant to study right now, 1 John, for us? Do you feel like this is...
Yeah, and I think that's why 1 John is one of my favorite books right now, is because it's like there are so many false teachers out there right now in churches, and there's a lot of religion going on. And religion is just, for me, religion is a bunch of man-made rules to form a theory of who God really is, and that's scary because you see throughout 1 John where John quotes specific things that Jesus had either said or just things like that he's seen and testified of Jesus, who Jesus is, not just theory, not just picking something out of a hat and going, this sounds good, this conforms to the way I want to live.
Right.
Like, John actually knows Jesus and what he requires, and
that makes me excited to learn
Yeah.
from him because he was actually there.
Yeah.
He knows Jesus.
Yeah, and the thing that touches me is that, just John's not saying love one another, like he's the representation of how to love, and he really wants that genuinely because God was love. God is love. Jesus is love. And so Christians need to learn how to treat one another, and I think that's kind of something that's happening in the church too is, we're trying to find out how to really truly love God by bringing in religion and theology, and we hardly ever understand, hey, there's like people to love too.
So just to sum it up, we're going to dive into 1 John. I'm excited because there's some sharp contrasts that he uses in this book, and they can kind of become controversial. I Googled some YouTube videos on it, and to hear one person's opinion and then hear another person's opinion. This book just really strikes me as like there's a lot of nuggets in it, and some parts of it confuse me, so I'm really excited to dive into it, and I would love to hear any comments, and I know that a lot of you have a lot of wisdom on this, so we would love to hear. I know that we haven't even touched the,
even the first chapter, but
at all today, especially, but so join us tomorrow as we go into 1 John. I'm really excited. Thank you so much.
Thanks. All right.